And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wiggs in Culver City.
John, it's been over a year now since the Los Angeles City Council banned phone-in public comment because they said they were getting too many prank calls. But you wonder, did those people just stop their prank calling or did they find somewhere else to go? Well, I just happened to be listening to the LA County Board of Supervisors meeting today, and they do have phone-in public comment. And what do you know? It's Jason from Smoke and Scan.
850-305. Your line is unmuted. Please begin.
Yes, my name is Jason. I'm a smoke and scan viewer. So the other day I'm down on Figure over the check.
Sir, you are off topic. We are on item number 7. Next caller, please.
He gives us shout outs occasionally.
Yes, they do.
And we always appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is an author, a political commentator, the host of the Heidi Harris Show, and I always refer to her as the Las Vegas radio goddess. That's my favorite title. You can get her online at HeidiHarris.com and follow her on X at Heidiology. Heidi Harris, welcome.
Hello, sweetheart. How are you? I was going to send you a picture of my feet, but they're not my best feature. So I figured I'd spare you guys because that nobody, even my husband doesn't want to see that. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it's so funny because I want to say, and you've been in talk radio a long time, if this were 10 or 15 years ago even, and a school district looking to make a little extra money rented their gymnasium out for a foot fetish porn shoot, it would have been a big, big controversy. And now it's barely a blip.
Well, that's why we in talk radio have to keep these things alive because the outrages, I guess it's the outrage meter has changed so much that we're the ones who have to still be outraged by this. I mean, everyone should be, but I guess a lot of them just kind of shrug their shoulders and move on, which is sad, frankly.
What was strange to me is that it was the adults in the story who were making the excuses, and it was the kids who were offended.
Yeah, I found that fascinating that the kids were, they were. And, you know, they say that a lot of kids now see adult content by the time they're 8 or 9 years old, which is terrible because they can't really put it in context at that age, and they're too young to be exposed to that. But, it was actually refreshing that the kids were offended by it because some of them still have a sense of right and wrong.
I'll tell you, and I know that politics is generational, where when we think about seniors as being a conservative voting bloc because if you're a certain vintage, you remember the greatest generation being the seniors in your life. Well, those people have died out, and it's no longer Archie Bunker that's the senior. It's Meathead that's the senior. And so they've kind of drifted to the left. But I've got to tell you, when I talk to young people in my orbit, whether they be members of my family or the children of friends of mine, it seems like they're a lot more conservative than they used to be.
You know, it's interesting. I was helping a friend out and giving him a day off in South Carolina doing radio, and I had a young lady call in who was 30, early 30s, and she said that her people around her, all of her friend group, are very, very upset about the Epstein thing. And, you know, we get to the point where you hear it again and again, and you kind of just want to roll your eyes. You're so tired of hearing it sometimes. But she said that her generation, they're really upset about this. They want to know more about it, blah, 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 very offended, very upset. I was very thrilled to hear that they're actually paying attention to that. I thought it was just one of those things where, you know, it's the older people or the people who are the politicos talking about it and not the younger folks. So that was encouraging to hear.
All right. So you are coming to us live from Sin City, which, of course, is a place that California loves. And we spent some time, I think the last time you were on this program, talking about the fact that the number of people visiting Las Vegas, specifically for the purpose of gaming, I know that your convention business is strong, but the number of people going there strictly to have a good time, to go for vacation, to play some blackjack, play some slot machines, it took a dip over the summer, and they were hoping that it would rebound as we got closer to the fall and the winter. Well, now some of those numbers are in, And it's looking like that summer dip is extending into the fall and winter. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, I am. And you know what's interesting? I don't know if it's the fact that people just have maxed out their credit cards, because it's the lower end gambler who's not coming as much. The higher end people are going to come, the whales, whatnot, professional poker players, all these people are going to keep coming. The F1 people, which, of course, that eliminates a lot of folks in town when that debacle shows up in Vegas. But there are going to be, the lower end people who are either not going to come because they've maxed out their credit cards, or they're going to go to places like Tejon. They're going to go to places like Pachanga. They're not coming to Vegas. I was recently in Pachanga. I had never been there. Beautiful casino, as nice as anything in Vegas. No charge for parking, have the great entertainment, have the slots. Those people are not coming to Vegas in the numbers that Vegas needs. Why should they deal with the traffic on the freeway where they can get pretty much everything right there?
So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine on the phone yesterday who loves Las Vegas, as do I. And we were batting around a theory that I want to run by you because I think there may be some truth to it. But in the 90s, it was reality TV that was really hot, and in the early 2000s, where we watched these people who would be willing to go on TV and humiliate themselves for attention and for the ability to become famous. And that was the big deal. And reality TV is still present, and some of the shows still do well, but it's not like it was back then. Back then, it was every other show on television. And now, if you're into that sort of thing, you can find it, but it's not in your face 24/7 the way it was. Now we have social media, where everyone can become their own reality show star, and you can live in the reality shows of the social media influencers, the political influencers, people you know in your own life, whatever. And when generating attention online is the goal, you need to be around pretty things so you could take pictures next to them and post them on social media. So you need to be in a pretty building. You need to be at a celebrity chef restaurant. You need to be at a concert with an A-list act. You need to be at a venue that is unlike any other venue that exists on planet Earth. You need to have all of these backdrops to make your life look more interesting than it is. And I think that to a certain degree in Las Vegas, one of the reasons that it costs a fortune to go there now is all of the older places, all of the places that were known for providing cheap rooms and cheap dinners and cheap show tickets. They're all being bulldozed for these new shiny buildings so that people can show up and take these photos and put them on social media and tell us how wonderful their lives are. But you would never do that at the old Stardust. You would never do that at the Sands. You would never do that at the old Tropicana or all of these buildings that are being bulldozed to make room for all of these new mega resorts that cost a fortune to build. And if they cost a fortune to build, you're going to need to charge a fortune so that you don't lose your shirt on the deal. I think the lust for attention and the lust for interaction on social media is, in a weird sort of way, leading the charge to places like Las Vegas becoming unaffordable. Your thoughts?
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. There was a murder involving two influencers in front of the Bellagio a while back where one shot the other, and they were competitors, I guess, in putting out content about Vegas. So there you go. You're right about that, though, that people are always looking for more interesting places to put their, to do their videos. Another aspect of that, though, that I think is important, talking about how, people are using social media, is that the LVCA, that's, as you know, the Las Vegas Convention Visitors Authority, supposedly our marketing arm, is no longer in charge of the narrative involving Vegas. And that has been huge, because it used to be they could stand there and say the beaches are crowded, everyone's having a great time, everybody bought it. And nowadays you got people on Reddit and X and Instagram talking about they paid $35 for a cocktail, that kind of thing. And that has hurt Vegas in a lot of ways, because the average person saying, you know what, I don't have a lot of money to spend, a couple $100 a weekend maybe, can't do that. So they no longer control the narrative, to your point about social media in general and how it's affected Vegas. It's been a huge change, I think.
If this doesn't rebound soon, if we're not talking about a spring rebound or maybe next summer, that's going to be a long-term problem for Las Vegas. Could you see a scenario where they end up having to just close facilities down altogether the way they did in Reno?
I don't see that happening, but I do see them changing some things, as far as the parking and how much things cost. I mean, we went through this before 2008. Everything was just unaffordable, ridiculous to go to a show, ridiculous to go out to dinner there. And then after, the nonsense of 2008, 2009, suddenly the casinos were like, hey, locals, come back. And we're like, who are you again? Because this is what they do. They price everybody out. So it's the locals who are mainly complaining or who won't go to the Strip even to meet a friend who comes into town. They won't. I have a friend who comes to town a lot, stays at Bellagio. I said, I'll pick you up and take you to a local place a mile away, but I'm not going to spend a fortune on a breakfast at Bellagio. Not that I can't, but I don't want to. I just don't want to do that. And so a lot of locals feel that way with the shows. The best entertainment in the world comes here, but who can afford it? That kind of thing. So I think I don't think Vegas will close anything because Vegas continues to reinvent itself. But I do think they have to dial back this ridiculous gouging of people. Once again, people can choose to stay there or not. I get it. But this gouging is going to eventually, it's going to hurt them because the people are going to run out of room on their credit cards and not be able to come here anymore. And then they're going to go to your casinos, your beautiful casinos down where you are.
We're speaking with Heidi Harris, who you can follow on X at Heidiology. Heidi, as part of the big, beautiful bill, there were a number of changes that were made to the tax laws that we live by here in the United States. And one of them really hurts the gaming industry. You used to be able to write off your losses, all of them. And now you can only write a small portion of them off on your taxes. Well, the problem is if you're, let's say, a slot machine player and you hit a hand pay, which right now is $1,200. The first of the year, it'll be $2,000. You get a tax form when they bring you your jackpot. Well, most people lose more than they win. That's typically how it works in Las Vegas and any gaming city. So even though you show all of these big jackpots on paper, it doesn't necessarily reflect your overall win and loss because odds are you lost more than you won. But in terms of tax purposes, they're no longer going to be able to take that into account. How worried is Las Vegas about that change in the tax law?
Well, I don't know that all of Vegas is worried about it as much. I think it's going to affect professional gamblers more than it will affect the casual person who comes into town. And, of course, the Democrats are screaming, our congressional delegation, our esteemed congressional delegation, because anything Trump does is bad, bad, bad. I don't think it'll be as bad for Vegas as they're anticipating it will be. But obviously, this is for people who itemize and all this kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't hear a lot of talk about it now. I did hear a lot of talk from the Democrats at the time it was passed. So, I guess we'll just have to see how it goes because it could affect the wealthy people, the whales. We always need the whales. But you know how the whales are. When the whales come to town, that can make or break a quarter for a casino. Right, when somebody comes to town and drops a ton of money or wins a ton of money. So, they prefer a lot of times, some of these casinos prefer just to have the people coming in and playing the slots and the small things because it's more consistent.
When Y2K was a thing back at the turn of the century, I know we were all worried about the computer systems not being able to handle it, and it turned out to be a big nothing burger. At the first of the year, I mentioned that the threshold of a hand pay is going to change from $1,200 to $2,000 to more accurately reflect inflation. And a hand pay, in case you don't know what that means, it means if you win a jackpot on a slot machine of $1,200 or more or $2,000 or more at the first of the year, the machine locks up and they can't give you the jackpot at the machine. Some guy in a suit has to come by with a tax form and then hand you the $100 bills. However, I have read that the casinos cannot use the computer to change the machines all at once. They have to manually go into each machine individually and change them that way. Well, as it turns out, New Year's Eve is a huge night in Las Vegas, maybe the biggest night of the year in Las Vegas. And there's going to be a lot of people who are in those casinos playing. If and when they hit a jackpot on a machine that hasn't been manually changed, that's going to be a problem. How big of an issue is that? Are you hearing chatter about that, or is that something the locals don't seem to be worried about?
I had not heard about that. I hadn't even thought about that. So you're saying they have to change the machines over so that they won't shut down at 1,200, but won't shut down until 2,000. I hadn't even thought about that, but that will be a nightmare if they don't do it, because people will be stuck waiting for their pay forever, waiting for their stupid little slip or whatever it might be. Wow. And it's already a problem for people waiting for pay, and then they get the little slip of paper now. I mean, there are already all kinds of issues with people trying to, check into the hotel, and it's an hour and a half wait. So imagine what it's like if you've hit a slot machine jackpot. You have to wait for a long time. I had no idea that was an issue. I'll have to check into that. I had not heard that or even thought about it.
And before you go, we have seen numbers here in the state of California for our universities where enrollment is falling off a cliff. At some universities, including Sonoma State University, their enrollment is down 40%. We cannot get people to go to California colleges and universities right now. I have long thought that the cost has just gotten out of control at many of these universities. And for any number of degrees, what you're paying for those degrees, you're not going to get a return on your investment. And to my eye, it seems like people are finally catching on to that, and they're looking at a college education the same way they look at buying a car or buying a house or any other consumer item, where they're price shopping, and if the price doesn't justify what they're going to get out of it, they're moving on.
Absolutely. And then when you look at all the stuff with AI and all the jobs AI is supposed to be taking in the next few years, get a STEM job, they said. Then you'll be working forever. And who's getting laid off? People in tech are getting laid off. Customer service people are getting laid off. Huge amounts of people are losing everything who some of them have, a lot of them have college degrees. Like you said, they're overpriced. They're literally never going to be out of debt the rest of their lives. It doesn't pencil out. Once government got in and any Yahoo could get a loan, that was really, as you know, part of what made it so expensive. I mean, if you're 20 years old, good luck going and getting a car for $50,000, right, or buying a condo or something like that. But yet you can sign your life away and potentially be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt you can't get rid of for the rest of your life. And I think a lot of kids are waking up to the fact that it does not pencil out. I don't blame them.
I also think there's a very negative attitude that this generation has towards education because they had to live through COVID and they had to take many of their classes on the computer and they got bullied into taking the shot if they didn't want it. And a whole bunch of bad things happened to them in their experience with public education. And that's carrying over to the university and college system.
Oh, yeah, I think so. And I think that the way college treats men is disgusting. And I think, if you want to have a job that's actually going to pay you something and that you're going to always survive, you got to learn how to, change out toilets, learn how to do electrical work. Those are the jobs that AI is not going to be able to replace. And Mike Rowe's been talking about this for 15 years or more. I mean, this is really important. The trades are really where a lot of people are starting to put their interest at this point. And, you get out of high school, you go to a trade school for a couple of years, you become a journeyman, whatever it might be. You're making a fortune while your friends are buried in student loan debt.
Hi, Heidi Harris, author, political commentator, host of The Heidi Harris Show. You can follow her on X at Heidiology. Heidi Harris, thanks so much for stopping by. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, my friend. Talk to you soon.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're keeping an eye on the mailbag.
John writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. 40 years ago, we had a morning show in San Diego that spoke about trips to Vegas being on a bell curve. Anticipating the trip is on the upswing, and then it peaks out not far after that. Then the downslope is the disappointment and travel back home broke and smelling like cigarettes. The flight to Vegas, especially if you ever do that stripper flight, which is Thursday nights, Burbank Airport to Vegas, full of excitement. The flight home on a Sunday night, everyone's depressed.
And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
I mean, we just did 3 hours of live radio and you want more? Sure. Download the podcast of yesterday's show. Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast, or just subscribe and download the episodes and don't listen to them. We don't care as long as you download it.
800-222-5222 is your telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
It's happened yet again.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
It's the California Crime Blotter with John
And Randy.
And Randy, this one involves man's best friend.
In Brentwood, not Southern California Brentwood, Northern California Brentwood, burglars broke into a veterinary hospital and ended up stealing ashes.
That's not very nice.
For more, here's KTVU, Fox 2.
Thieves broke into a Bay Area veterinary hospital over the weekend, but when they did not find any money, they took something that was much more valuable to the staff and the customers. KTVU's Janet Katsian.
I don't know what the black market rate is on ashes, but I'm going to guess it's nothing.
What are you supposed to do? Sell it to meth addicts who snort it?
KTVU's Janet Katsuyama joins us live from the hospital with a story of how those thieves took off with urns containing the remains of people's pets. Jana?
Claudine, staff showed us the surveillance video that shows them looking around for a cash box, but the thieves, when they didn't find any.
You know, there are so many places that you can choose to rob. A vet hospital sure doesn't seem like a place where there's going to be much cash, if any, on the premises.
Of all the places to rob, that's what they pick?
Let me just say, as a pet owner, everything that you have to pay for at the vet is so expensive, you definitely need a credit card.
Claudine,
Gotta get those airline miles.
Well, there is that. If I could just find now a card that would give me a 4x points on vet bills, I'd be all set.
Claudine, staff showed us the surveillance video that shows them looking around for a cash box, but the thieves, when they didn't find any cash, they ended up grabbing some bags from underneath the reception desk. Those contained ashes of pets that had just been returned from the mortuary. Just hours before the Central Boulevard.
You know, some criminals are really good at their job, and we know that they'll never get caught, and they sure seem to be making a lot of money. These are not these guys.
Imagine being the owner of one of those pets and receiving the phone call from the hospital saying, guess what? Fido's dead and the remains were stolen.
Just hours before the Central Boulevard Veterinary Hospital was supposed to open Saturday morning, surveillance cameras recorded video of thieves smashing the front door glass and breaking into the lobby.
They came right in. They went straight for the registers.
The manager, Zara Mayer, says it was around 6:15 a.m. The video shows two people in hoodies opening drawers and finding the cash box.
It was completely empty because we do not carry any cash here after hours.
But they didn't leave empty-handed. One grabbed what looks like gift bags from underneath the reception desk. Bags of little value to the thieves, but priceless to the owners of 3 beloved dogs whose cremated remains were in the bags. Other customers said Monday.
Boy, these guys really didn't score a damn thing.
What do you think they were looking for? Do you think that they assumed that there was cash in there? Or, think about this for a second, I'm sure they have narcotics for the pets when they're performing operations. I wonder if they were looking for drugs too.
It's definitely possible because there are sometimes in these veterinary hospitals all kinds of opiates or other things if they have to put a dog under.
Other customers said Monday they feel for the dog owners.
It's like, what are you going to do?
Or the meth heads are into this thing called Trank now, and it's literally fentanyl laced with horse tranquilizer. Maybe they were looking for that.
Who knows?
Other customers said Monday they feel for the dog owners.
It's like, what are you going to do with those? And I feel for the pet parents. Yeah. Because this is my 3rd dog. So I know how I would feel. And so my heart goes out to them.
We plan on, cremating when that time comes. And those ashes, you can't replace that. That's every memory we've ever had of them when we see that urn.
Painful for the staff, too. Who
just get the Christmas ornament with the paw print. That's what we do.
If you walk into a room and you see an urn on display, that creeps me out.
Yeah. No, thank you.
You see that urn.
Painful for the staff, too, who knew the dogs and the family.
Seeing them grieve and then working with the pets so many years, it just hits more to home, you know. It was actually a very difficult phone call to place to the pet owners. They were very understanding.
Hey, we get a little hang up with those ashes you ordered. Yeah, they got stolen.
And they weren't even lost in the mail.
They were very understanding.
Now they hope someone might find the urns if the thieves threw them away.
It would have most likely been these type of urns.
The small urns are made of wood, some with pictures and plaques, each engraved with the name of the dogs.
Oh, they went for the fancy package. Now I feel worse.
Okay, but at that point, you know exactly what it is that you're stealing.
Also stolen were small ceramic paw prints and clippings of their fur.
On social media, there's this misconception that I've been reading, that we've all been reading, that it was a client that came in, broke in to get ashes that they didn't pay for. All of these cremains were already paid in full.
This is a family-owned...
No, there's no way somebody is breaking into this place because, oh no, they couldn't afford their ashes. That's not what's happening here. This is
so
meth
then
heads.
what? You steal your own ashes or your own pet's ashes, and then you steal all the ashes of all the other pets in the neighborhood?
All of these.
This might be the lowest of the low, and we've done a lot of low blotter stories this year.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, if you had to rank them, what's worse, stealing pet ashes or prying the plaques off of gravestones in Compton?
Drugs will make you do strange things.
All of these cremains were already paid in full.
This is a family-owned business, and they're wonderful people, and they're just always so nice. And why pick on these kind of people?
And a message to the thieves.
Have a heart and return them, you know?
Well, they don't have one, and they won't do that.
But we did learn recently that the crooks do watch the news.
Of course they do. They're scanning the obits. Maybe they scan the obits for the pets.
Have some compassion.
Investigators say people can leave anonymous tips with Brentwood police, and the hospital says from here on out they plan to lock the urns as they come back from the mortuary. Claudine?
They're going to put them in the same place they put the pills.
Yeah, put them in the safe. That'll prevent them from being stolen.
Yeah, Jenna, you just feel so bad for the owners of those pets, and certainly so sad about their pets being gone. Is the thinking that they just grabbed them because they wanted to grab something because there wasn't any money, and that they'll just toss them when they realize what they actually grabbed?
Got to score something here.
You know what? I think there's a lot of truth to that. There's a good chance those remains were dumped in a trash can somewhere similar, somewhere near where they were stolen.
That is their thought. They said that the urns were wrapped up and looked like, kind of fancy gift bags with the paw prints on it. So they are hoping if somebody sees it that they might return it either here to the hospital or to police.
Okay, let's hope that's the outcome. All right, thank you, Jana.
There you go. The lowest of the low. Scumbags break into a veterinary hospital. They try to find cash. There is no cash, so they steal pet urns and pet ashes.
There is a 0% chance they're going to bring them back because then they have to acknowledge that they were the ones that broke into the hospital in the first place. But what they could do, again, is throw them out the window of the car, throw them in a trash can near the hospital, and maybe you can get them back that way. I think that's your only shot. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
It's happened yet again.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
Dun, 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 dun. It's the California Crime Blotter with John
and Randy.
And Randy, this edition takes us to downtown Los Angeles,
where a bunch of jackass teens looted a 7-Eleven.
You don't say.
What do you think it's like at the franchise fair when they're trying to still get people to buy into these businesses?
My guess is there's some tense conversations.
For more, here is Fox 11.
Plus, it has happened again. A wild take.
Marla, you're competing with Henry Lee. So here is what my personal favorite drop of 2025 might be.
It's happened yet again.
Marla.
Plus, it has happened again.
Well, now I got to save that. Got to have a Marla drop.
Plus, it has happened again.
Marla, it's happened again. When you work the local news beat, you need to say it.
Plus, it has happened again. A wild takeover at a local 7-Eleven like this one from last year. Welcome, everybody, to the Fox 11 News at 10 o'clock. I'm Marla Tejas.
And I'm Christine Devine. New at 10. You've seen these videos of 7-Eleven takeovers. Now it's happened again. This time.
Boy, Christine's doing it too.
At some point, they all will.
Now it's happened again.
I mean, nothing's going to beat this.
It's happened yet again.
Well, that's hard to beat.
You notice how you don't really hear this at Circle K's or AM/PMs. It's just 7-Elevens that get robbed constantly.
Thank heaven.
This time in downtown LA.
Dozens of teens this weekend overwhelming and robbing a 7-Eleven in broad daylight. Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf, he's live there in downtown outside LAPD with the latest on this case. Matthew?
Well, tonight police are looking through that video that's pretty wild to watch. In it, you can see dozens of teens swarm a 7-Eleven like hungry bees.
Except these bees weren't looking for honey.
Dozens of teens, huh? So it's scores of terrible parents.
New dramatic cell phone video Los Angeles police are combing through to investigate the latest flash mob robbery.
Oh, stop! Oh my gosh.
Dozens of teens seen Saturday stealing and throwing items out of a 7-Eleven to others outside.
This is in the middle of the day. Just straight up looting. Where's the police? This is in downtown.
Okay, if they look like bees, what the police have to do is arrest the queen.
One teen bragging on camera why they feel untouchable.
Like nobody respects, anything or anyone, so they feel like they could get away with anything. Because, from what it looks like, they can.
He's not wrong.
He watches the news, too.
Well, and this is the decision-making process for the county now. The county is broke, and the county knows, thanks to recent legislation that has passed, that anything that happens to a minor when they're in custody, the county's going to get sued for. So they're doing an actuarial decision, and they think fiscally it's actually cheaper to let the little bastards destroy the town and burn everything down than to lock them up, because inevitably they're going to sue.
And the result is none of us can have a 7-Eleven.
LAPD confirms they rushed to the Beverly Boulevard location Saturday afternoon after the clerk hit the panic alarm. Police say someone wearing a mask pointed a gun at the employee while the rest of the group swarmed in, overwhelming the store and ransacking everything in sight.
It happened.
This is supposed to be a civilized city that's supposed to host the world in 6 months. Excuse me, the world in 6 months.
There's so much violence in the 7-Elevens that they have a panic button.
Yes. They have it at banks, and they also have it at convenience stores.
It happens everywhere. It looked like a bunch of kids. So I'm not surprised.
They probably don't have the money for food.
No.
Oh, come on.
This is why we get so much of this, because there are so many apologists. This is not hungry kids. By the way, I'm pretty sure, haven't we passed legislation, John, that means that all kids get fed all day long on our dime?
Well, maybe they were hungry, but only because they worked up an appetite trashing the 7-Eleven.
So I'm not surprised.
They probably don't have the money for food.
That's the voting electorate here. This is why we have these problems.
They probably don't have the money for food. If you literally go up that block, there's so many homeless people down there. Like, honestly, it's a systemic issue.
Yeah, those aren't the homeless people are a different problem. They're not the swarm of teenagers who are robbing a 7-Eleven. Those ones have homes.
This guy is so dumb, I hope the state of California takes his driver's license away from him.
2 days later, there's no visible damage outside this store, but over this last year, we've reported on several cases just like this.
That is why Marla had to open the report with...
Plus, it has happened again.
This 7-Eleven off West Olympic hit twice last year by groups of kids on bikes. Another store in San Pedro also hit.
Were they just hungry?
At what point do you just say, okay, enough? You know how expensive it is to repair glass and to put a store back together, and I'm sure all the counters were destroyed and whatever displays they had were destroyed. It costs money to put that back together and make it presentable again.
If we're not going to hold the little bastards, which is a great term that is used all the time on this show, accountable for their actions, how about we send the parents a bill?
Yeah, let's throw them in prison. I would love to do that. If your kid trashes a 7-Eleven and for whatever reason we're not allowed to punish them because of the liability, well, throw Ma and Pa, or excuse me, in this case, throw Ma in jail.
Dad's long gone?
Oh, Dad hasn't been there since the back seat of the car.
Went out for a pack of cigarettes, huh?
Another
At
store
that same 7-Eleven.
Another store in San Pedro also hit during a nearby street takeover.
Small business owners and even large business owners across this county have been on the front lines, essentially trying to fight crime on their own.
Earlier this year, District Attorney Nathan Hochman stood with local...
Save us, Hawkman!
This is part of the reason that we are uninsurable as a state, because this is allowed to happen all the time.
Earlier this year, District Attorney Nathan Hochman stood with local 7-Eleven owners touting Prop 36 and stiffer penalties for shoplifters.
That's where Hawkman had the 7-Eleven put this little sticker in their window saying, hey, we're watching this business, and what do you know? They're still getting hit.
This latest flash mob robbery video now in the hands of police as neighbors watch in disbelief. How do we get this to stop?
Well, I mean, I don't even know because kids...
Birth control. That's how you get it to stop.
Yeah, these people need to stop procreating.
Well, I mean, I don't even know.
I did my part.
Well, I mean, I don't even know because kids don't listen in general. But maybe if parents start teaching their kids to be more respectful.
So beyond all that cell phone video out there, there's also tons of surveillance cameras at that intersection. Police have a whole lot of video to work with in this investigation. Reporting live downtown tonight, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
There it is. It happened yet again.
Plus, it has happened again.
It's happened yet again.
Yet another 7-Eleven looted in the middle of the day by a whole bunch of teenagers, and not one of them got arrested. And even if they did, they're not going to Los Padrinos. We can't handle any more lawsuits.
No, and I love at the end of the report, they say that everything was caught on tape and the tapes have been turned over to the cops. Well, catching the bad guy has really never been the problem. If you want to catch the bad guy, you can catch the bad guy. But you only catch the bad guy if there's something you want to do with them. You want to try to correct the bad behavior. You want to punish them. You want to put them before a judge and let the judge rip into them, scare the parents. And they don't have any interest in doing any of that. They've made that point very clear. Well, if you're not going to do anything with them, what's the point in going and finding them? And if you do this over and over and over again, and the state has reinforced the fact that there are no consequences, why should you stop? From their point of view, it's fun and you end up with free stuff. And it happens yet again.
Plus, it has happened again.